I recently spent time with my grandma Grace, who is 101 years old. And when you talk with someone who has lived through the Great Depression, World War II, inflation, recession, and nearly every market cycle of the last century, you realize how much perspective matters. She and my grandfather built a life through difficult times, uncertainty, and a lot of hard work. But what stood out to me wasn't fear or regret, it was gratitude. So stay tuned today. You're not going to want to miss this episode on the lessons you can learn from Grandma Grace.
Welcome in. Glad to have you on another episode of Legacy Beyond Wealth with Rob Shelton, founder of Axio Wealth Management. I love this topic. We kind of referenced this on a recent video about your 101-year-old grandmother, Grace. I think, you kind of set that up. You think about all the things that she's seen in her lifetime. It's pretty remarkable. I don't know that too many people will have that kind of span where you see those world wars, you see technology advance as far as it's come. I mean, there's been a whole lot of life in that 101 years.
Yeah, there is. And so much to be able to learn from. I just feel fascinated sitting down and love hearing her talk about different stages of her life and lessons that she's learned.
Yeah, and I think, that perspective is obviously incredibly valuable today because, so much financial decision making is emotional. We talk about that a lot, and it's something to be very aware of. And the people that do best long term are usually the ones that can stay grounded during those uncertain times. So let's go through some of these lessons, Rob. We have 3 today we're going to share from your grandmother. So what's number 1 you have for us?
The first one is that uncertainty is normal. I mean, my grandmother grew up, like I said, in the Great Depression on a dairy farm in Fresno. And just so you understand, her mom and dad lived in Texas and tried to make a go of it in farming and wasn't very successful at all. So packed everything they had on a train and took it out to Fresno, California and started all over again. Everyone worked really hard. Her father woke up around 2 in the morning every day to milk 2 cows by hand. And eventually he grew that to be over 100 cows on that dairy farm, which at the time was a pretty big sized dairy farm. Later during World War II, she and my grandfather actually lived in their car for a period of time because they couldn't find housing while he was training to become a pilot for the military. And at one point they were sleeping on a football field in Blythe, California. And yet when she tells those stories, she doesn't sound one bit bitter at all. She sounds grateful. And the one thing she said that really stayed with me was, we didn't have a lot of money, but we always had food and a clean bed to sleep in. And honestly, I think there's a huge lesson there for investors and for successful families. The world has always felt uncertain to the people living through it. There will always be recessions, wars, inflation, political conflict, and market uncertainty. But uncertainty itself isn't unusual. And the people who build wealth long term, usually the ones who learn how to move through uncertainty instead of constantly reacting to it emotionally, are the most successful.
Yeah, I love that lesson too, because when we're in the middle of it, Rob, it feels overwhelming, right? When we're in the middle of the coronavirus or any kind of market crash or, these international conflicts that are happening seemingly more often right now. So kind of stepping back and having that perspective of 100 years, you can see that a lot of this stuff's happened before, but I like your point. It's not about reacting. It's about figuring out how to navigate through, the current situation that you're in and get to the other side, and you'll come out stronger more often than not. So I love that first lesson. What's number 2?
Number 2 is really about looking for the simple things that are out there. Some of her happiest memories were incredibly modest. Going to Santa Cruz was a major family vacation for them, and they packed food because eating out just wasn't affordable. They stayed close enough to the beach to walk everywhere and spent most of their time just being together. She talks about riding the merry-go-round at the boardwalk like it was magical. And I think that's important because today's people are constantly pressured to compare themselves to everybody else. Bigger homes, more expensive vacations, more stuff, more status. And maybe at fault there would be social media in and of itself. But one of the greatest financial advantages someone can have is contentment. Because if you always need more to feel successful, financial peace will be very difficult to be able to achieve. My grandma's generation understood the difference between needs and wants, and very clearly, because they had to live through some of the most difficult times. And honestly, many of their happiest memories was when they had very little money to be able to do it with. And I reflect upon my own life and vacations that we've taken, and there's been some great big vacations we've taken, but some of our happiest ones are just 3 hour trips away to Arches National Park in Utah, that are out there. I remember writing a book for a client and their history, and talking with them. Their happiest moment was when they were dirt poor, living in Sacramento, California, just starting their business and playing with their kids in an apartment that had really cheap carpet. And so I think finding contentment is a big thing for you to be able to find happiness in life.
Are you ready to unlock the freedom to live your best life? Schedule your no-cost 60-minute discovery meeting with our team today. During this session, we'll take the time to understand your family's story and financial dreams. Together, we'll craft a personalized roadmap designed to help you achieve your goals. Let's explore how we can unlock the freedom for you and your family to thrive. Just click the link in the description of today's show to get started.
Yeah, this one is a great lesson today. As you mentioned, we're always comparing things with social media out there. It feels like you're never able to adequately match what everybody else is doing, and you're always kind of chasing that. But to your point, Rob, we were taking a road trip back from visiting my parents, and it was a long road trip back. And I was just thinking, had the windows down the interstate, and the kids are just singing songs and dancing in the back. I'm like, these are the times I'm going to remember, not the stuff that I was trying to plan every detail on and making sure they were always staying busy or doing something. He says little moments you always remember.
Amen to that. And it's interesting when you start talking to your kids as they're older about the memories they have. They'll remember some of those big trips, but really what they're looking for, and as I look back, are memories of where I can be able to spend time with my family. May have been in Hawaii, or it may have been in a desert location like Arches National Park. And you can still be able to find those anywhere that are out there. And I think that's the real most important thing, is not necessarily trying to keep up with the Joneses or create that big vacation to put on social media, but finding the space and time to create memories together.
Yeah, well said. All right, what's our third lesson today from Grandma Grace?
Yeah, really, when you think about it, it's really about how she sacrificed consistently to create opportunities for children. So the third thing that I really want to emphasize is on family and education. She worked evenings as a telephone operator, and later 30 years at a community hospital, helping supporting the family and being able to provide the health insurance, because my grandfather was a crop duster out there in Fresno, California. And she talked about driving kids across town just so they could attend a better school. And despite starting with very modest means, all their children eventually had earned college degrees from places like BYU, Berkeley, UCLA, USC, and UC Davis. And that didn't happen because life was easy out there. It happened because they consistently invested in people and opportunities over time. And honestly, I think that's one of the most meaningful definitions of wealth. It's not status, it's not appearances, but creating opportunities for people that you love. That's truly what legacy really is.
It is. And so these are three great lessons I think that will apply to anyone, no matter what stage of life you're in, how old, how young, no matter where you are, where you find yourself. These are three great lessons. But, Rob, when you step back from all of this, what do you think your grandmother's life teaches us the most about money and planning?
Really, it's about perspective and gratitude. We've said this before, but she lived through every type of uncertainty imaginable, and yet still talks about life with optimism. I think today it's easy to believe that uncertainty means something is broken. But in her life, this reminds you that uncertainty has always existed. And what matters most over time is resilience, discipline, adaptability, gratitude, and long-term thinking. And honestly, those principles matter just as much in wealth management today as they have during her lifetime.
Yeah, well said. Great life lived, and really we can kind of build and learn from that. I know that's what you do every day, Rob, is learning from others' experiences, but cool to share the lessons you've learned from your grandmother. And again, it provides us with that perspective about what's most important in life. especially this day and age, we can get very distracted pretty easily. So hearing those stories from someone who's lived through so many changes over the last century is pretty remarkable. So again, if you've enjoyed this conversation, if you learned something from it, made you think a little bit, hit subscribe. We'd appreciate that support. But also take up Rob on the discovery call that he offers at Axio Wealth Management to find out if you're a good fit to work with them, and really to begin talking about how that planning takes place and what it could look like for you and your family. But great message, Rob. And I'm glad we were able to share this and kind of capture her life. Even if it was a short 10-ish minute video, still, I think a lot of good can come from it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ben.